to work. And not only are you getting more distance, but it's controllable distance because you're controlling what the handle and the club face are doing. And when you think about face, we're controlling from the heel to the toe, bottom edge to top edge. Same unity.
Correct.
So again, like most people have only heard about how to create a proper like backswing,
yes,
how to lag the club properly, how to release the club properly. Who has ever really thought just about how it was right here? And if you get this right, then that happens.
And guess what? The tour players, that's what they're doing.
That's exactly what they're doing in the back.
Right. Is close. Understand that the golf swing is 90% hands and arms. It used to be like back in the 20s and 30s with Harry Vardon and Henry Cotton and all these guys. They were saying that it was 90% hands and arms. Where did that get lost? Like, why? Why did we lose that? How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Cause and Effect podcast, where we introduce the cause and effect relationships that exist in golf in relation to the hand to handle to club relationships. Episode 22, Jonathan and I both got our compact clubs. That's the name of our new short little clubs that we use a lot in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
These are going to be launching at the end of the month. So exciting announcement on that.
Yeah.
We got a partnership actually that we're working out a couple details with a grip manufacturer. That'll be kind of the final piece to complete the club. So
exactly,
we'll have that completed. We won't give away who that is going to be, but yeah, they make good grips.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this will be cool. We're gonna do actually some archive videos too, tailored around the compact club. So the last kind of like couple weeks, we've really been trying to just simplify everything as much as possible. That's why we talked about in the last episode, kind of the functional unit,
right?
You know, trying to just really make sure that people understand like the hand to handle to club relationship, right? That's
right.
That's like our thing.
Yeah.
That's our shtick.
It might seem like a complex terminology, but really it's like we want it to kind of be like that in a sense because it's so important that the claws and the arms and everything attached to the club properly and they're all a unit.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we took last week off just because we were organizing a lot of things. We're organizing these compact clubs. We shot some studio content, so hope everybody enjoyed that. We had our speed video that just released yesterday. Today's Mondays. We're filming, and that did really well. People like that because it proved like everything we kind of been talking about, right? Like, there's no like movie magic or manipulations or anything. Like, you hit two balls, one with using the body and one with just using the hands and arms. And the hands and arms one went further, and that's really going to be the theme of like today's entire episode. Is really just educating people on the importance of the hands and arms when it comes to creating speed in your golf swing, right? Everybody thinks that the speed comes from your body, and if you scroll your feed on all the social media accounts, you're going to see 90% of the content's probably all related to turning your hips and getting more turn back and through, and that's the engine of what creates
that's
speed.
Really always what people are talking about. It's weird because when you think about it, like it's right in a way sometimes because it's responding to what the claws are doing, but they're organizing it with the body properly. But when it comes down to some people, yes, with a weaker grip, they will use more body, but still the claws still have to be in proper like formation throughout the swing.
It's still only 30% with the weak grip.
Right.
So but today we're going to talk more predominantly neutral to strong grip.
Right.
And really just educate people on where the speed comes from in the golf swing. So if you've been watching our content and we've been talking a lot about these relationships and connecting them to the club, it's like, okay, we got a pretty good connection now. We feel like we understand the claws. So this video is really just about where does the speed come from in the golf swing, in relation to the hand to handle to club relationship.
Right.
So first thing we'll do is we'll just kick it off by just really educating people on the relationship of how your fingers are working relative to your palm is how your club head is working relative to your handle.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So a lot of the things that Jonathan and I are going to talk about today is really going to be tailored around that relationship. So if we tell you to push with your palms, that's going to make the handle do a certain thing.
Right.
If we tell you to pull your finger, your trail index finger, back, that's going to get the club head to like set relative so the club is in line with your hands.
Right.
When the club's parallel to the ground. So we're going to talk about three parallels, things like that. But I just want people to understand like that's the relationship we're talking about today. And that's how you're steering your car.
Exactly.
Like we can't use that analogy enough. The handle is the steering wheel, the club is the car. So let's steer this car and make it go fast today.
Exactly. Right.
Okay,
right.
Cool. So enjoy the episode. Yeah, pretty soon you're going to have one of these clubs and you'll be able to get your car going fast too.
That's right.
So let's do it. Okay. Where's the speed come from in the golf swing? How is it your hands and arms and not your body? Let's just talk about the claws first, and then we'll talk about the connecting them to the club.
Okay. So the first thing to understand is that we have our palms and then we have our fingers, right? So the whole thing is how the palms and fingers work relative to each other. That's really where speed actually comes from. So when we talk about claw speed, we'll say, okay, it's like the palms are pushing down. We have that feeling of pushing down, out, and away with like the fingers kind of pulling back to start. And then we have the extension of the fingers away from the palms, right? And then we have like our rotation. So we'll say for our strong grip, we're going to rotate about 20, 30 degrees to start. Now from here, if I just go to my takeaway position.
So that's your starting position,
This is my setup. If I was to stand up, like I would be in my, if I just wrap my curls, basically my hooks.
Stick a club in there and it's ready to roll.
Like, you know, right. It's like, boom, there we go.
Perfect.
But yeah, so once we get this, now we're almost halfway to our takeaway. We just rotate a little bit more and we push and stretch it back, right? Where we talk about with the parameter. But the idea is that from the takeaway position, if just from that point we go like to pre-impact. So the handle just moves forward approximately like a foot to where the butt end gets to the inside of the lead leg.
Gotcha.
Then from there, all we're doing is maintaining the pushing pressure down, out, and away. And then we're going to allow the fingers, we're going to call it now the pointer fingers. So like both index fingers are going to point down, snap down as the palms keep pushing.
Correct, right.
And then when they rotate or unrotate, we'll say, because they're wound up back, right, from the takeaway and at pre-impact. So they are going to be delivered down and like we'll say down the line. Imagine that the pointer fingers, when they rotate, basically will trace a perfectly straight line to post impact because the club again gets back to parallel where the handle and the club head are in alignment, right? Parallel alignment.
Right.
And basically with the palms and the fingers have to basically arrive back in parallel to the palms. If the fingers stay outside the palms and you come through, the club head's way outside the handle, right? So it would look something like this opposed to like this.
Gotcha. Okay, so now do that with a club. Show that with a club. Because again, like we're gonna do all three. Now you got the understanding of fingers to palm. So we got that. Now we're gonna put it on the handle,
right?
And then to show you that relationship. Because sometimes it's gonna be hard to visualize if people like don't have the club and they're like, wait, fingers, palms, like it gets kind of hard. So now we'll show it with the club.
So real quick, just before we jump into that, the idea though is that like if I don't move my hands lateral at all and I just get my my up. And then I get my extension and my rotation. From here, if I just untwist like a half rotation to here and just see how fast I do it, like how fast can you do that with maintain your claws? That's where the speed's at because you're controlling the butt end of the club and you're allowing the club head to rotate around it and then release around it. It's control. It's not like we're just going like this and just rolling. It's just like
release.
But the idea is that this is where the main speed comes from, and that's why they always say from pre to post impact or the last second, right?
Like we said in the speed video, like pre to post impact, this is like the little pocket of speed,
right?
Like your car is like turning on the nitrous and just like. Whew,
well, give it a great example just before we dive into that too is if you take your fingers relative to your palms and you just go like straight back, just like we'll go to like the takeaway here, but you don't rotate or anything with the hands and arms. Then from there, how are you going to create speed to post impact? Are you just going to push? How fast is that going to move the handle relative to the club head? It's going to move as like a stable, consistent like unit, right?
Correct.
The club head's never catapulted like ahead of the club head. So if we lever it around and back of the club head and then snap it, right? Then it just allows everything to rotate. It's like a elongated force, because of it being a club, right? Inside the claws. So then if we go through that, we get our grip. Got the club.
Strong grip.
Yep. So we talked about, we have the pushing down, we're pointing down, with a little bit of twist to get to the takeaway here. So our spring is wound.
So the club head is slightly inside the hands at this point, or even there's like a little envelope. Like you can be like even with the hands, maybe slightly outside the hands or slightly inside, depending on kind of where you're at with your game. But that's the takeaway.
Well, the idea is this too, is that from here, as you transition up, we talk about trying to pull with the like pointer fingers
correct
up and back at the trail bicep. So that's like a good reference for the 45 of the direction that you're trying to like navigate the palms in the, or basically we'll just say the fingers while the palms keep pushing.
That's how you're steering your car.
The palms are keeping the handle stretched away as the pointer fingers are directing the club head towards that trail bicep. Gotcha. So it's just that unity, understanding the palms and the fingers, the handle to the club face.
Love it. And when you do that, that's when you get the fingers stretched away from the palms, there's like some tautness and some tension
here. Because you're pushing away. Like when the arms become locked and pushing against the club, it creates like an actual like hammer effect, like a lever.
This is ready to hammer that nail, right? Here's our hammer. The ball is the nail. Here we go. So now we're coming into the ball.
So imagine so in the real swing, the only difference from right here is that the butt end of the club would be approximately 5 inches outside my trail leg.
Correct.
And in our circle, as we talk about, where
it's the takeaway position.
Yeah, just below hip high. But from here, we'll just say that we're trying to, again, push back. So we're keeping the fingers up and back at the trail bicep, even if we were just going from the takeaway. So from like a quarter to quarter, right? We just keep pushing until the button gets to the inside of the lead leg. Then the fingers, basically, or the pointer fingers are going to point down. That's the impact.
Gotcha. And that's because that trail arm's going from bent to straight.
Right. Correct. Keeping the trail wrist up. And then from here, we're going to get that little pivot point. So the lead arm and hand are going to unrotate. Like imagine that at pre-impact here, we have 90 degrees of internal lead, our hand, like hand and arm rotation. Yeah. 90 degrees of external trail hand arm rotation.
Gotcha.
And they're going to unwind 45 degrees. So there's 45 degrees maintained, which prevents the club head from working too far left of the handle, which we've said is a huge power like accumulator when you don't allow that to happen.
Correct.
Right. Yep. If the club head starts going left of the handle, you are losing a lot of connection, which then lacks in speed of effectively how the club head's supposed to be released.
Yeah, this is just like basic physics. Like if the more the club accelerates out away from you, like towards that light right there, that's where the speed comes in.
We're just navigating the torque that we've created in the right direction relative to the target.
Yeah, and we're just really trying to control when we release this club, because it's not like we're just winding it back and then just like letting it unwind. Like we're still pushing. We're keeping that trail arm or trail wrist cupped. Trail arm's going from bent to straight. So it's a controlled unwind.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So with our compact club here, it has a shorter shaft than a normal shaft, right? So it's not going to bend or flex as much as a normal club would.
Right.
So just understand that if I set the club head back of the handle here to the takeaway, now if I push back down and out against the handle, we'll say like down the line and the trail arm goes from bent straight to keeping the trail wrist up, the club head's already has this like spring effect back, right? So the shaft, if you can imagine, it has like a slight bend like in it like this. Now, once the club gets again here at pre-impact, if I push down on the handle, it catapults the club. Like the club shaft actually goes from being up and back bent with the club head to then the club head's being snapped downward naturally, because the shaft again goes from a circle like back to then a circle being released down and out. So that's why it's so important. We always keep pushing from pre-impact to post to make sure that we don't allow that catapult of the club head to override, because then that can really escalate like the scooping or casting effect or losing like the stability of keeping the heel leading the toe.
That's why I go back to that position again. So this is why when we talk to our students, we have them drive the butt end of the club, sometimes like almost like right field, we say, because we're trying to counter that kicking left, right?
As an exaggeration sometimes too, in the takeaway, opposed to being perfectly straight back, like handle line with the club face parallel to the toe line.
Correct.
Might even set the club head a little bit inside.
Yeah.
You just don't want the arms to go out or the hands start going away from the body too much. Correct. But from there, if you just wind it up and back and then snap it more out on the 45 like this.
That's a great drill.
It just helps them feel like how the body's staying pinned, like trail side of the body staying pinned back as you catapult that release in the right direction. Because the gear effect of the club, if you have the claws in the control of the palms and the fingers, it is a controllable release every time.
Yes, and that's why we like the strong grip, because if you're really struggling with distance, the best drill for you to do is get your lead thumb on the trail side of the club as much as possible, get your lead elbow pointing to the right of the target as much as possible, and then get the handle forward as much as possible. Now from there, just let the club head go slightly inside like we're saying, and then keep it behind the handle as long as you can, and then
forward.
Boom, throw it to where your lead elbow is pointing at the setup. That's the best drill I give any of my students. And that's it. Like,
yeah, you just have to know, like, once you lever the club back, like, where does it need to be released to at post-impact? Like, where does the club head have to go? Where does the handle need to be? What really have to do is, if you already have the pushing down and the set back from the backswing position, again, even if it's just like a quarter to pre-impact, you're just pushing back forward a little. And then from there, keep the push. And then you get the pointer fingers down. And that's it. And to your point of reference on the ground, which is down the target line too.
Right, exactly.
With the pointers.
A lot of that could be phantom thought. We use that term a lot, where you're kind of predetermining the destination of where you're trying to release the club head to.
Like where you know it needs to be.
Yeah. So when we do that, like I was saying, with the thumb on the side, handle forward, lead elbow to the right.
Right.
Now that almost if you had like a laser beam coming out of your lead elbow, pointing to the right of the target, that would be like your phantom thought of like, okay, that's where I'm trying to release the club head. Now just make your backswing and try to release it to where that laser was pointing.
Right.
It's a good way for people to visualize it.
For sure. Because commonly too, like when golfers are like trying to figure out, like they're at the range, right? And they're trying to like navigate the ball too much. They're like, it's slicing, so I'm trying to like hit it straighter. But if they knew where the club head had to be at like post impact, that's all that guarantees the ball will fly where it needs to if you get the proper positioning.
Yeah.
Right. So it just gets them out of the idea of like peeking at the target and all these things of like looking to see where the ball's to go. It's like, no, focusing on where post impact is. The rest of the reaction will happen based upon how much you've levered the club head back of the handle.
That's why we're going to have, like with our chair that we have someday, we're going to have like a wall, like right here, that basically just forces you to just do the backswing and then just get the club head to release away. But there's going to be like a little wall right here that prevents you from like looking or like keep going.
It's like
with the handle,
let the claws do the work. Yeah, because if he gets here with the lead arm, if he keeps the palm pushing too far and the lead arm gets disconnected, then the release gets too far away.
And then you start opening up,
or you let it go inside too much and then affects the body. But if we get here and just allow the the fingers basically to work down and around and back up relative to the palms, that's the perfect gear effect to stay also like to keep the hands and the club all working on the 45 properly.
Right. Correct.
Right.
And the 45 is just basically
the hula hoop at a 45 tilted, you know, around yourself in a setup.
For anybody that doesn't know, like the 45, we just talk about basically like the 45 is just like a 45-degree angle from like the club wrapped around you, back and through.
If you could stand with your arms in, like you stood up vertical and you had your arms straight away, and if you imagined a perfect circle around you level from the club, that's it basically. But the difference is we have to bend forward, so then the angle has to be tilted back. So because in golf, if we go straight up and straight down, you can't create really any type of consistency and speed.
That's why with all these, like we're going to create a chair that it's going to be like an attachment that you're going to sit on and be able to use all your training aids like a compact club. But we're going to have like a visual of this like 45, and then you could basically just bend forward and see how that 45 is actually going to translate to when you actually bend forward.
Right.
That's the visual that we want people to really understand. So when you're doing all this stuff, like in your chair and you got your compact club or just your claws, you're really starting to understand how what you're doing here is going to pay off to when you actually get over the ball. Like we're not trying to like invent something new of like, oh, you just do this and then you get over the ball and hopefully it works. It's like, no, this is as good as going to the driving range and working on your golf swing.
Really is.
And it's actually more effective.
It is.
Because you're actually understanding like the cause and effect relationships. And that's it.
Well, think of it this way too. For so long, I mean, people have always been out like really good golfers, especially long hitters.
Yeah.
Be able to hit it off their knees and hit it just to, I mean, I'd say within probably 30 to 40 yards of what they can hit it when they actually stand up. And so that goes to prove that being able to swing level to the ground properly and control the lever and the lag and the release on this plane, right? Level to your sternum while we're in this chair doing this, opposed to like, we're not swinging up here. We're not swinging down here. It's straight out here.
Yes.
Right.
And then
that
we're
really
going to teach
work.
you from there, once you get all this and you feel like you've mastered this, which you never will. I mean, trust me, Jonathan and I are still perfecting this and we've been working on this for a while. But once you get this, all you're going to do is just bend forward, keep the same relationship, and then it's just like pivot down.
Yeah, basically in our one drill that we did, in our, I think it was a...
oh, I haven't released that drill yet. I got to release that still. Yeah, we shot that at the studio the other day.
Yeah.
I know when you're talking about where I was like here.
Yeah, because we showed how to basically take it from the chair in the perfect way to just, all you have to do is just, you know, get the club parallel to the ground and then unhinge the wrist 45 degrees from the club being parallel to the ground. So it's like boom, and then that's it.
Yeah, I gotta still release that. I mean, we have so much content we've shot.
Great.
So yeah, keep an eye out for that video.
Yes.
But you know what really also debunks the whole we're just kind of talking strong grip right now. I want to talk about this a little bit more. Is what, like, if you look at the percentage of long drivers, like the long drive competition guys, like Kyle Berkshire and all these guys, they have a strong grip.
Yeah.
Right. DeChambeau is kind of the exception to the rule. He's got a weaker grip, and but he makes that work. Obviously, I mean, he's been hitting the ball really far. But if you look at those guys on the range, they are on the side of that handle quite a bit because it makes it easier for them to lever the club up, lag it, and release it. So it kind of debunks the whole like, oh, you get more speed by you. It's like, well, these guys are building their swings for speed. Don't you think they would probably have a weaker grip and use their body more if they wanted more speed?
If that was the key.
Like, these guys make a living on hitting the ball far. And guess what? They're on the side of it.
Exactly. No, it's true, because I think that they're realizing too that, you know, if you do the proper things we're talking about with properly hinging and then setting the club back and twisting, like you wind the lever up perfectly, and then from there, your hands and arms can maximize their speed.
Yes.
And then if you want to use your body as well, you can, and that will even, you know, escalate it more so.
Correct.
But when you look at like Kyle Berkshire, he does the move where he goes like to his left foot and then he does like this teeter-totter.
Yeah.
That's like the tilting to get the flow of the energy and the movement ready. So like when he goes back, it's like he feels like the energy is actually loading almost towards his lead side, so he can just stretch the arms as far away from his body as possible, get his max twist, that big long arc, big turn. And then from there, then it's almost like he picks up like his lead foot to the top at the very top and then just plants his lead heel down from there and just like allows it basically creates like a swing wall. Like from here, it's like stomp down, snap, brace, and then let it all rotate again. And then, you know,
and there you go.
You're good. Yeah. But it's amazing how it's not near as much of a rotational kind of looking move, especially with his routine. It's more of keeping things like parallel straight back.
Right.
Which is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of them, I mean, because they're hitting up on the ball and everything so much, they probably feel like they're swinging like 45 degrees to the right of like
down the line.
Down the line, exactly. Yeah. But man, Berkshire's, he's
that's how he can hit it far. But on top of that, it's consistent.
Yeah,
he's maximizing his numbers.
Right.
You know, I watched him play a par 5, and he hit like a driver like 400 yards, and then he hit like a 220 yards 7-iron to, you know, a few feet or whatever. And then his putting stroke looked really good. He had his good locked elbows and the alligator arms, which we got to put that video out for putting soon too.
Yeah, we do.
Because it's getting close to golf season, and, you know, everybody needs to make sure they're perfectly claw connected throughout the bag. And the putter is I mean, it's obviously like one of our #1 money makers right there. And shot savers.
I wonder if we could maybe put it in here, or maybe we could do it at the studio.
We can do it at the studio.
Yeah, we can do it at the studio.
Yeah.
That'd be good for people because, they need that.
Yeah, it's very simple. And the cool thing is it's all about the hands, but in putting, it's more just stability of controlling the lever, lag, and release, because the putter does the exact same thing, actually. Yeah, think about that one.
We're not trying to hammer the nail.
No, absolutely we're just not.
Trying to keep our hammer
Tempo is a big thing. We'll talk about it. But anyway. Yeah, so...
but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to just understanding the gear effect.
Yes, exactly. So like when I did that video the other day and hit the ball with just setting the club back and then trying to use my body, I was showing how it's like, you know, we set it back, and when I turn, the handle or the button of the club will tend to move like further forward down the line before the club head begins to come around. So that's where the lack of speed is, because we're not getting the snap effect as much. It's like kind of elongating it to a point where when it smacks, just kind of like a half of a smack, like a little smack. And instead of like a full, like on, like, you know, smack, winding up. So that's where we're saying, like, we get the max here, and then from there, properly control, again, how the palms are the unit of connection, pushing down on the handle.
Yes.
The pointer fingers are basically working down and around the palms.
Nice.
And then from there, then the fingers are working up and back at the lead bicep, right? So like just under the lead bicep. So when it rehinges back up from post-impact, it's like this.
Yes.
The same as in the backswing.
It's the mirror image,
that's how we basically get the club to set on the 45 in the takeaway, ride the 45 to the top, and then we get back to that pre-impact position. Then we can perfectly release from pre-impact to post-impact on the 45, and then even ride it to the finish.
I love what you just said there with the fingers basically going down and around of the palms.
Yeah, that's it. That's the gear effect. The gear effect. That's what people are not understanding about how the club has to work. And not only are you getting more distance, but it's controllable distance because you're controlling what the handle and the club face are doing. And when you think about face, we're controlling from the heel to the toe, bottom edge to top edge,
correct,
leading edge to the trailing edge of like the sole even,
right.
So it's like from here to here, back to here, in front of here. So that's the cool thing.
Yes.
It's just like getting the understanding of, again, the palms of the fingers. It's exactly like, so we were talking earlier about grabbing your golf club like this. So it's kind of cool that our little,
compact
club here, that we have our perfect hand unity to the face.
Yes.
So it's like the top fingers, the bottom fingers. And when you think of it that way, like when you set back, it's like the face is really like one. There's that mirror image, right?
Yes.
So once you practice this enough in your chair, then it's like you can get on the golf course and you can actually, you could close your eyes and actually tell where the face is at,
right?
Because you know,
right?
It's like right here, wherever your palms facing, the palms to fingers.
Yeah.
That relationship is a mirror image of this.
Maybe we'll do like a whole this year where we play it like on our knees and just show people like, hey, this is everything that you worked on in the chair this winter. Like, here we go. We're gonna play a hole showing that all that work paid off.
Hitting the ball off the tee is pretty much the only way we can really do it. But
what do you think? You don't think you'd be able to hit like an iron or anything?
The line angle is going to be kind of messed up.
Yeah, we'd have to bend our clubs.
Very different. Yeah. The line would have to be down
really
quite a bit,
down.
at least 4 degrees. But
yeah, that's true.
But it's more of just the idea though. Like, we could hit a few tee shots though, and just kind of show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Maybe tee up some irons off the fairway and just hit a 7-iron and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
how many people can say they played an entire hole on their knees?
There we go. Right. And we'll put on our knees too. We'll see about that.
Our alligator arms.
We'll have to navigate the ulnar and stuff to accommodate like what we need.
That's funny. I don't know why I just had that visual. It was just kind of funny. That's going to be like the party trick that all of our people can do though. They can just understand like how to hit off their knees and stuff. But yeah, this is really, I mean, a lot of people are scared to let the club head pass the handle because they feel like they're flipping or like rolling the club. But if you understand how to control that kind of unwinding, that's really the big thing, right? Like if you, the club naturally, and especially with a stronger grip, it wants to like untwist a lot.
Right. Like, so the idea is, again, as we talked about, we are pushing down and pulling back, up and back twisting, with that club head, right? So we get it levered back. So once we get that lever from here, if I push back down and forward, like a little bit more out at the target line, that stores the lever a lot. But if I go to that same position, instead of pushing back forward with the palms, let's say I just take my fingers and start with my pointing fingers kind of trying to flick down first. The palms will actually start to go backwards, which means the handle starts to decelerate as the club head is actually accelerating at a faster rate, which then basically allows typically a toe leading first kind of contact, which is really heavy chunk in it.
And if you got a strong grip, that's like,
oh yeah, you're laying the sod almost over that ball.
You're in trouble.
So it's just important, that you navigate that, it's like you lever it back. Now just lag the lever, and then from there, then the lag is going to be released.
That's the secret.
Right. And all lag is, again, is fingers working up and back relative to the palms and around, and then you push back to keep the fingers back. Same with the club.
Yes.
And then from there, it's like the fingers are worked around the palms in a certain direction, down and around.
Right.
And the club head is no different.
Right. Just understanding that relationship. Like, okay, you're here, your palm should be here, and your fingers should be here.
Right.
Like, that's the kind of visual we want people to understand. Like,
exactly.
We'll tell you where your palms need to be and where your fingers need to be.
But here's the new kind of thing is that I don't think anyone's ever said or explained how the palms and the fingers are basically set back, like basically lagged, and released.
Yes.
Properly, the same way as the club.
Yes.
It's the same unity.
Correct.
So again, like most people have only heard about how to create a proper like backswing, how to lag the club properly, how to release the club properly. Who has ever really thought just about how it was right here? And if you get this right, then that happens.
And guess what? The tour players, that's what they're doing.
That's exactly what they're doing the best.
Yeah. And whether or not they know it, they might just have a perfect grip and they might push perfect and their fingers might just be naturally going back of their palms. But guess what? They understand how to drive the heel ahead of the toe at impact, and they understand how to see, like, we're talking about a lot of things that maybe are subconscious to some people, maybe to the better players. and they're doing it and they're not thinking about it. But this is what's happening. We've tested it. We've collected the data. This is the secret.
Right.
Like, so it's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, so the tour players, you know, they're pushing, they're keeping the pointer fingers pointing down with a little twist. But when it comes down to it at pre-impact, that's what they all share in common with the trail hand. They get 90 degrees of external rotation in the trail hand and arm.
Correct.
They get the full 90 degrees of extension of the fingers back of the trail palm. The further the hitter, the more the fingers are back. So you look at like someone like Rahm, he's max back, I guarantee, because it's like a spring effect. And then, so again, we'll go through that one more time. So we've got the proper, we'll say pushing with the palms throughout. The fingers are working down. The pointing fingers are working down, and then up, back, and around. Staying lag back of the palms to pre-impact. That's the master like move right there.
That would be the club head like inside the hands.
Getting
slightly.
Right back here to like our second parallel position. Takeaway is the first one, and then from here, now we're trying to end up parallel here again.
Now we have our phantom thought idea of where we're trying to release this part of the club to.
Exactly, which is just, again, direct, like palms keep pushing. Trailing goes from bent to straight. We get that push, and then from there, it's like fingers, pointing fingers are going to work down, and then around palms. And then the fingers from there are going to then pull up and back to the lead bicep.
There you go.
To the finish.
There's your golf swing. Literally in a chair.
Which is palms and fingers, handle to face.
Yes.
Palms and fingers, handle to face.
Yes. People just need to like go to bed hearing that and just like palms to fingers, handle to face.
Bedtime lullaby.
Yes. We're going to like have Dimples.
Instead of counting sheep if you can't sleep at night, trying to fall asleep, just keep saying that over and over again and you'll fall asleep and have great dreams about your claws.
And this is this is the off season for a lot of people around. So there's no better time than to get prepared. This is going to be what completely transforms your golf game this year. You've been trying, you've been searching, looking for that one thing that's going to help your golf game. This is it. This compact club is going to be the key link that allows you to understand how to control your golf club, how to get speed, and it's all right here in what we're saying.
Palms to fingers, handle to club face.
There we go. Perfect. Palms to fingers, handle to club face. Love it. All right, cool. We're going to do some seated swing solutions. And then that's it. We're going to wrap it because we already talked. We're not going to talk about hot takes because we've already kind of debunked a lot of things of how people think the speed comes from the body and it doesn't.
Right.
If you still think speed comes from your body after everything we just talked about here, I don't know what else I can tell you.
Well, we can just say this. We can just say that the body, like if you think of yourself as like stay inside like the classic idea of like a barrel, like trying to stay like center when you rotate, it's a big deal. But really your claws, how they work around you is going to control how you stay centered. So if you don't have the claws and you're just trying to use the body to try to create these things, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I guess I could just rephrase that by saying, if you think you can move your body faster than you can move your hands and arms, you're wrong.
Exactly. And effectively, like over time too.
Yes.
Like
and being able to control, like we said, this isn't just like, we're just winding it up and unwinding. It's like, no, we're pushing with our palms. We're letting the index finger point down as we keep the trail wrist cupped so the index fingers don't like roll too much.
Right.
Still have to keep
controlling the gear effect of how the fingers work down and around the palms.
Because we're going to get, once you get your claws right and you get the club wound up, you're going to have the spring like fully loaded. So it's very important that you understand the step-by-step process we're going to walk you through. And this was kind of just like a little intro to it. But we're just going to really just keep giving you more and more information of like, okay, here we are at the setup. We're pushing, we're pulling back with the trail index finger. Like we're really just going to tell you where you're pushing, where you're pulling, what your palms are doing, what your index fingers are doing. That's all that matters. So yeah. All right, cool. Let's do some seated swing solutions. So we got a couple good drills to help you kind of load the trail index finger, unload it, release it, understanding how the kind of external rotations affecting the plane. Let's do it.
Okay. So we're going to start off with the external.
So we don't need our club right now, right?
No.
All right, cool.
And actually, we don't really need it for any drill today. So
okay, cool.
Yep, this is all claws.
Seated swing solutions, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is the externals, and what we're talking about is if we take both hands straight away from the shoulders, thumbs up, we take both hands and we go palm up. So this is like max external, okay? So what this is, if we just take each hand and we basically go about 5 inches outside with the insides of the hands and arms, of the outsides of like the hips, okay? These are the parameters for the takeaway and also post-impact.
Got it. Okay.
So then pre-impact, the only difference is that the trail hand comes in until the underside of the trail hand arm get to approximately the inside of the lead leg, because that's where post or pre-impact is, with where the butt end has to get to.
Correct.
To be released. So it's basically, again, we could start off like this. It's like we go just outside, take the trail hand, we can even go back a little bit and then bring it right back down to the inside of the trail leg. And the further you get towards that trail leg, your trail arm and hand are going to want to go this way because it's hard. You want to go under more and try to go back to try to see if you can get all the way to connect the hands back flat. Ooh, that would be a good one.
That'd be a good one.
Because from there, then you can even just kind of push away like this a little bit to get that extension. And then you'll get this gear effect we just talked about. Jeez. Okay.
That's a wind up. Yeah.
For sure. Oof. But yeah, it's important that we understand that, especially in the follow through, that the lead arm has to externally rotate to get a proper rotation of the club. Like the club head has to be able to release down and out and around the handle, right? So it's important that the lead arm rotates to serve as that brace. If the lead hand, so we go palm up. If I'm coming through and my lead hand stays on top like this and it stays that way, what's going to happen? Lead arm's never going to pull back in. So you're going to have the chicken wing and it could go any direction. Right. So to maintain and get proper connection and speed, this is what we're talking about, is this rotation. So again, if we just understand, start palm up, stretch them out. From there, it's go back and around, serve that platter, bring it right back down, try to connect here. And then from there, the lead hand would just basically
mirror what this one just did.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. In the follow through.
Right. That's just a simple way for people to understand it. You don't have to, everybody thinks I just got to keep my elbows together and just keep the handle moving down the line. It's no. You got to let it stop.
Yeah.
So the lead arm can fully, you look at the PGA Tour logo, it's that follow through.
Right here. It's once you get to the takeaway, when you get to the post impact, we have the palms pushing, the pointer fingers are pointing down. And when they pull up, when the lead arm gets parallel to the ground here in the follow through, and there's that perfect 90-degree angle created between lead arm and shaft, that is the PGA Tour logo. Yes. So that's when they're pulling with the pointers up and back towards that lead bicep.
That's just lost in golf instruction.
No one's ever explained the PGA Tour logo even, I don't think. But anyway, so that's really the key thing though, is understand that. And the only difference is with the lead hand and arm, in the backswing, is that the lead hand arm would go this and rotate with internal on top, and then they work together as a unit. But again, you're already bracing yourself for where the lead arm has to be here at post impact, which is again getting this proper rotation.
And you very, very important because now the trail hand's going to basically hit up against that,
and the lead elbow can bend at a 90-degree angle relative to the lead shoulder. Same in the backswing with the trail hand arm. That's why it's so important that we get the externals,
45s and 90s.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. All right, next one.
Next one's the hook. Yep. Yeah. So what I want you to think about is, we'll just go trail hand arm. If we just make our pointer finger with the trail hand arm like this, imagine that the hook, the only difference is you're just curling the fingertip like this. But imagine the pointer. That's how you keep the extension of the finger. You get your good pinch with your thumb. And then from there, that's an imagination that your club head is in an extension from the shooter finger.
Okay.
So as we go back, what we're going to do is we're going to first off.
Do you have extension in the trail wrist here?
Not yet. We're going to activate it
right now.
So yeah, we got our pointer. Okay.
Okay.
So and imagine that we're trying to shoot the pointer is constantly pointing in a straight line, straight back, level to ourselves here. Okay. Shoulder high. So from here, we're going to do the first move, which is the up. Then we're going to do the back. So you can see the pointer's already shooting kind of halfway back to where it needs to be the takeaway. All we have to do is twist it. And then from there, we just stretch it back a little bit and ride it. So what we just did is by going up, back, then around, we've wound all the movements. Now all we have to do is go straight back with it. So you could almost do that and swing actually in the golf swing, you could take your grip and go, here, I'll show you.
Yeah. So only we had a compact club.
We go up, we go back.
Yeah.
And then we go around. Look at that.
So that
and then all you had to do, all you're missing is the stretch of the handle back with the width. So if you stretched it the 5 inches outside the trail leg towards our circle we've talked about on the ground down here, from there, you've already got your takeaway. And then from there, just a little increase and boom, we're back.
Got it.
So
there's so much
such an important idea though with this pointer finger.
And you can a way to modify that, and I do this a lot with my students, is grab it and pull it back with your trail like your trail index
as like an extender
and like pull it back, just to like really almost imagine like how you're trying to get the club head to go more inside and back of the handle. It's like if you're trying to create max lag, you're trying to just lever it up as much as possible, lag it, boom.
But also understand too that the idea we've talked about with this parallel straight back line level to the shoulder is very important, because we want to make sure that the club head is following like this plane or this like straight line, in a sense. It's going to come off of it eventually, because it has to ride the 45.
Yes.
But in this first move, again, of going up, back, then around, this is it. Then you take the lead hand, you could even go same thing. Got our little pointer finger. We go up, back, and around. And you could go the same way with this.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? All you have to do again for the claws, curl the fingertips of the or the pointers, right?
And then to like make it go up, you're just taking that and pointing that
up and back with a little more twist. Like you're just gradually increasing what we've created in the takeaway to the top. You're maintaining what you've created, or even going a little bit more with like a little bit more increase of twist and holding back more.
That's the
key. And pushing back forward against the button. Then controlling how it all those levers release by how the palms keep pushing, and then the pointers are going down and around the palms.
Right. Yeah.
And then up and back, lead bicep.
Yeah. I mean, we're saying like this is the secret.
Like it is. Like you can't simplify the golf swing better than this, as far as with what the hands do and how they're relative to what's going on between the handle and the face.
And I think we need to basically just what I'm like hearing us talk about this more is that I think we need to come up with an attachment that simulates like this
I agree.
Parallel in like this plane.
Right.
Because I really think people need to like visualize that when they're using their compact club or when they're using the claw ball, which is coming soon.
We'll do a piece of content. We're gonna go shoot more videos tomorrow, and I'm gonna do a video with this external and show you how the body reacts throughout the move, like in the backswing and the follow through. If you maintain external, naturally helps you understand how to properly tilt and how to turn without having to really do anything.
A 3-for-1 special.
Boom. Exactly.
Perfect. All right, cool. That's it.
Yeah.
That's a lot to digest for people. We're going to keep it short and sweet in this one. We got links in the bottom for everything. Stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. We got a lot of awesome content coming. Got the Compact Club. We're going to have some archive videos coming for that. That's how we want to launch our archive videos. We've been trying to figure out, like, we have the Claw Code. We've been kind of structuring it, simplifying it as much as possible. Clawified was kind of the first intro to that. If you haven't watched the Clawified series, go watch that. But we've simplified it and we're broken it down, and that's what we're going to really introduce with the Compact Club. So when we release the Compact Club, you're going to want to make sure you have one.
Absolutely.
It'll be a lot easier to follow along and follow everything.
Makes your golf life's easier.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So this is your off-season program. If you're just kind of getting into it, it starts now. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.